Chapter 51. He couldn't find Chani in the market, but fortunately Songwen still had her messaging jade slip. He picked up the jade slip and sent a message. Songwen, Junior Sister Chan, do you have detailed information on the rainbow grass? Songwen waited for a while but received no response. He put down the jade slip and attended to other matters, expecting Chani to reply once she saw the message. His first task was to refine the ghost head shield. Songwen sat cross-legged, his mind focused. He took out the ghost head shield and placed it in front of him. Then, reversing his blood and chi flow, the abundant chi and blood inside him began to surge. A drop of essence blood started to trickle down from his brow, falling onto the ghost head shield. Drop after drop of essence blood spread over the ghost head shield. Dyeing its eerie patterns, a sinister crimson flickers of bloodlight began to glow on the ghost head shield, gradually intensifying. Suddenly, a black mist burst forth from the shield, transforming into a fierce ghost nearly 10 feet tall in midair. The fierce ghost was pitch black, baring its fangs and roaring ferociously at Songwen. However, Songwen seemed indifferent to this phenomenon, continuing to drip essence blood after dozens of drops of essence blood. The fierce ghost seemed sated, gradually calming down and shrinking back into the shield. Songwen ceased dripping blood and instead repeatedly infused spiritual power into the ghost head shield. About 2 hours later, a faint smile appeared on Songwen's face as he finally completely refined the ghost head shield. Only Songwen dared to use such a method of refining at the cost of his own essence blood. For other cultivators at the 4th stage of chi refinement, it would take at least 10 days to half a month to refine this ghost head shield. After all, not all cultivators possess the spiritual power far beyond their cultivation realm like Songwen, nor did they have nearly inexhaustible essence blood at this moment. The messaging jade slip received a response. Chani, Senior Ji-in, the rainbow grass is a spiritual herb unique to the poisonous miasma swamp. Our sect's herb garden does not cultivate it, so I have no information on the rainbow grass. Songwen, Junior Sister Chan, can you find a way to obtain information on the rainbow grass? I can offer a certain amount of spirit stones as compensation. Perhaps tempted by Songwen's offer, after a moment, Chun-Yi responded, Senior Ji-in, why suddenly interested in the rainbow grass? If you truly desire it, I can consult Senior Zhang Xiaofan for a solution. Zhang Xiaofan was a direct disciple, making it easier to gather information about the rainbow grass from his master, a golden core stage alchemist in the Pill Hall. Songwen, if there's information on the Yen family in the poisonous miasma swamp, that would be even better. I can pay 30 spirit stones as compensation. However, all information must be provided to me within 3 days. It will be void afterward. If more than 3 days pass, Songwen would leave the sect. Moreover, the messaging jade slip had distance limitations, making communication impossible once they were too far apart. As a spirit plant husbandry disciple, Chen-Yi only received 10 spirit stones as monthly allowance. 30 spirit stones were already a considerable fortune for her. Chen-Yi promptly replied, Senior Ji-in, I will contact Senior Zhang as soon as possible. 2 days later, in the evening, Songwen opened the large red coffin in his cave. A corpse puppet over 2 meters tall, with fangs over 5 centimeters long and emitting a strong corpse aura, jumped out of the coffin. Roar! As if celebrating its revival, the corpse puppet roared loudly as soon as it burst out of the coffin. Songwen circled the corpse puppet a few times. Its skin was dark brown, and its withered muscles resembled the sturdy roots of an ancient tree, robust and powerful. It's indeed a decent flesh shield. Songwen nodded in satisfaction. At this moment, Songwen finally received Chun-Yi's reply. Senior Ji-in, I'm waiting for you at the Miscellaneous Disciples cafeteria. Songwen was delighted. He hadn't expected Chen-Yi to actually obtain information on the rainbow grass and the Yen family in the poisonous miasma swamp. He had the corpse puppet return to the coffin, then wasted no time and left the cave. At this time, it was mealtime, and there were many miscellaneous disciples coming and going in the cafeteria. To avoid drawing too much attention, Songwen and Chen-Yi each took a serving of food, found a secluded table, and began eating and chatting. The other miscellaneous disciples, seeing that both were wearing outer disciple attire, were tactful enough to keep their distance and not disturb them. Chen-Yi handed a jade slip to Songwen and said, Senior Ji-in, both the information on the rainbow grass and the Yen family are in here. Thank you, Junior Sister. Songwon took the jade slip and simultaneously passed a small cloth bag over, containing the 30 spirit stones agreed upon earlier. Taking the bag, Chin-Yi used her spiritual power to probe it briefly, a smile appearing on her face. She explained, "Senior, have you accepted the mission outside the sect from the Yen family?" Songwon nodded, yes. After pondering for a moment, Songwon continued, "Junior sister Chin, if I may ask, where did you obtain the information on the rainbow grass and the Yen family?" Songwon asked this question to ensure the accuracy of the information. If Chin-Yi had collected the information haphazardly on her own, its reliability would be questionable. "I obtained the information from Senior Zhang Xiaofan through his master." Chin-Yi replied. For Chin-Yi to secure 30 spirit stones, she clearly went through some trouble. While she didn't explicitly state it, asking Senior Zhang Xiaofan and his master for information wouldn't have been without cost if she hadn't offered something in return. Zhang Xiaofan might not have been willing to help. As for what Chin-Yi paid for this, it was no longer Songwen's concern. Songwen was satisfied with this answer since the information came from a golden core cultivator. He believed its reliability should be assured. He didn't want to dwell on this issue further and changed the subject. "Junior sister Chin, have you completed your mission outside the sect?" Chin-Yi narrowed her eyes and smiled proudly. "Not yet, but I'm about to. I have to thank you, Senior." "Oh? How so?" "My mission was to deliver 5 fire spirit grasses to the sect," Chin-Yi explained. Fire spirit grass was a first-tier spiritual herb of the fire attribute, not particularly rare. However, it thrived in intensely hot environments, which couldn't be found within the corpse demon sect due to its dense corpse and in chi. The nearest place to find fire spirit grass was at Longyan Mountain, near an active volcano, but Longyan Mountain was thousands of miles away from the sect, fraught with powerful monsters, strange poisonous insects, and occasional rogue cultivators. For someone like Chin-Yi, who was only at the second stage of chi refinement, retrieving fire spirit grass from there was almost suicidal. However, fire spirit grass was still just a first-tier spiritual herb. Chin-Yi managed to find a cultivator at the 9th stage of chi refinement who had exactly 5 fire spirit grasses. However, the price demanded by this cultivator was high, and Chin-Yi couldn't gather enough spirit stones on her own, falling short by over 20 spirit stones. It was at this opportune moment that Songwon approached her. Upon hearing Chin-Yi's explanation, Songwon couldn't help feeling a bit envious. He had thought his own mission was relatively safe, but compared to Chin-Yi's, hers was truly risk-free, costing only a few spirit stones. "Well then, congratulations, junior sister Chin." After chatting for a while longer, the two parted ways. End of the chapter. Chapter 52. Songwen's cave mansion. Seated cross-legged, Songwen took out the jade slip given by Chin-Yi and carefully examined it. The content of the jade slip was divided into 2 parts. The first part introduced the rainbow grass, while the latter part contained information about the Yen family. The rainbow grass matures within a span of 100 years. Initially, it appears no different from ordinary weeds, with the whole plant being green and emitting faint spiritual energy. When it reaches 10 years of maturity, an orange ring appears on the leaves every subsequent decade. Another color appears on the leaves. Until its 70 years, it exhibits all 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. Upon reaching 100 years, black patterns form along the edges of the rainbow grass leaves, a crucial indicator of its maturity. A fully matured rainbow grass can be used to refine profound chi pills, which enhance spiritual energy for late-stage chi refinement cultivators, similar to Songwen's current chi-gathering pills, but with much richer spiritual energy. The jade slip contained these details about the rainbow grass, followed by information about the Yen family located in the poison miasma swamp. The Yen family is a foundational family affiliated with the corpse demon sect. They often station themselves in the poison miasma swamp, which is perpetually shrouded in poisonous mist. Due to their long-term management, ordinary cultivators find it difficult to enter, essentially making the relatively small poison miasma swamp the Yen family's private domain. The patriarch of the Yen family is a powerful foundational cultivator and currently the only one in the family. However, he is advanced in age and nearing the end of his life, rarely seen in recent years. In the past few decades, no outsider has seen him, leading to rumors outside that the patriarch of the Yen family has passed away. However, to maintain their position and protect their interests, the Yen family has not made any public announcements. The Yen family boasts 13 cultivators in the late stage of chi refinement, among whom Yen Zhengping is at the peak of chi refinement. However, being over 60, it's unlikely he will succeed in foundational cultivation. Additionally, Yan Zhongping's third brother Yan Gao is a cultivator at the 9th stage of qi refinement. Among them, one person caught Song Wen's attention, Yan Yiwen. At just 18 years old, she is already broken through to the late stage of qi refinement. Such talent is extremely rare, even within the corpse demon sect. The next day morning, the alchemy hall is located at the northwest foot of the corpse demon peak. It is said to have chosen this location due to natural underground fires that aid in alchemy as a crucial location of the corpse demon sect. It is heavily guarded with numerous disciples on duty everywhere. Song Wen arrived at the alchemy hall gates 2 quarters early. However, the alchemy hall wouldn't open until morning, so Song Wen could only wait outside the gates. He waited until the doors of the alchemy hall finally opened and Song Wen entered with his mission token. The alchemy hall covered an extensive area, a massive courtyard spanning over 100 acres. Guided by the guards, Song Wen arrived outside Eldershan's small courtyard. However, Eldershan didn't immediately allow Song Wen in, leaving him waiting. Outside, the guard escorted Song Wen to the designated area and then departed. Song Wen could only wait alone. A few minutes later, a handsome man arrived outside the courtyard under the guard's escort. This man gave Song Wen a sense of straightforwardness, which was quite unusual here in the corpse demon sect. Typically, disciples of the corpse demon sect exuded either gloominess or arrogance and ferocity, influenced by their techniques and the aura of corpses. Even Song Wen at this moment was no exception, surrounded by corpse aura and a chilling energy, appearing far from being benign. However, the man's demeanor, coupled with his handsome appearance, gave a favorable first impression, especially among the female disciples who easily took a liking to him. "Junior brother, are you here for the mission outside the poison miasma swamp?" The man spoke first, asking Song Wen. Song Wen nodded respectfully and replied, "Yes, senior brother. May I ask how I should address you?" The man exuded a strong aura comparable to someone at the 7th stage of qi refinement, indicating his strength. It wasn't difficult for Song Wen to analyze that this man was the fellow cultivator assigned to the mission with him. For the foreseeable future, they would be spending a lot of time together, and given the man's obvious superiority in strength, maintaining a good relationship was natural. "So, your junior brother Ji-in, I'm Guo." Guo Tao smiled. Song Wen clasped his hands and said, "Greetings, senior brother Guo. My strength is still weak. I hope senior brother will take care of me on this journey." Guo Tao seemed pleased with Song Wen's respectful attitude and nodded. Just as he was about to say something, a voice suddenly came from inside the courtyard. "Are you two Guo Tao and Ji-in, tasked with assessing the rainbow grass at the Yen family this year?" Before the words finished, a middle-aged man with a cold expression appeared abruptly before them. It was Elder Shin from the alchemy hall. Seeing him, both Song Wen and Guo Tao immediately turned and respectfully bowed. Disciple Guo Tao Ji-in pays respects to Elder Shin. "Hand over your mission tokens and disciple tokens for my inspection," Elder Shin said. Song Wen and Guo Tao handed over their tokens to Elder Shin, who verified their identities and mission tokens without issue. He then took out 2 jade slips and handed one to each of them. "This is the main content of your mission this time. I must remind you once again, when assessing the rainbow grass, you must be meticulous and not the slightest bit negligent. Under no circumstances should you collude with the Yen family occupying sect spiritual herbs. If any discrepancies are found after the assessment, what awaits you will be excruciating punishment, both physically and spiritually." Facing Elder Shin's warning, Song Wen and Guo Tao immediately assured him, "We will do our utmost with full dedication." Elder Shin nodded in satisfaction and waved his hand, "Set off as soon as possible." With that said, Elder Shin soared into the courtyard. Seeing Elder Shin depart, Song Wen and Guo Tao exchanged a glance and were about to leave. Suddenly, Song Wen heard Elder Shin's voice echoing in his mind, "Young man, remember, your task is to monitor Guo Tao. If he oversteps in any way, you must report to me promptly after the mission. Don't think this mission is just a formality. If there are any mishaps, I can ensure your life will be worse than death." Faced with Elder Shin's sudden warning, Song Wen's expression changed slightly. However, he immediately pretended as if he hadn't heard anything. Elder Shin had clearly used a telepathic technique, specifically speaking to him alone. Feeling somewhat stunned, he realized he had only revealed his cultivation level of the 3rd stage of qi refinement. How could he possibly monitor Guo Tao, who was at the late stage of qi refinement? If he did discover any wrongdoing by Guo Tao, the latter could easily kill him in retaliation. Did Elder Shin really think he will allow him to survive to report back to the sect? However, just moments ago, it seemed even Elder Shin hadn't detected his hidden strength, which was somewhat reassuring. End of the chapter. Chapter 53. Songwen and Guitao quickly left the vicinity of the alchemy hall. As they walked, Songwen silently pondered how to cross the poison miasma swamp. Although the swamp was only over 2,000 miles from the corpse demon sect, this distance was as the crow flies. Between them lay towering mountains, cliffs, and steep peaks. Before the foundation building stage, flying was not possible. Crossing these extensive mountain ranges spanning over 2,000 miles was not easy, especially with potential dangers along the way. Initially, Songwen thought the sect would provide special mounts to help them traverse the swamp, but Elder Shin hadn't mentioned anything about traveling. As Songwen pondered, Guitao lightly patted his waist storage pouch. A palm-sized wooden boat flew out, swelling in the wind, instantly expanding to about 2 meters in length. Hovering in the air, Songwen looked dumbfounded at the flying boat before him, involuntarily recalling the scene when Sho had brought him to the corpse demon sect on a much more impressive flying ship than the single wooden boat before him. Even so, Songwen was still surprised. As an inner disciple, Guitao actually owned a flying boat. It seemed that the strength behind Guitao's family couldn't be underestimated. Otherwise, how could Guitao, with only the cultivation strength of the 7th stage of Qi refinement, afford a flying boat worth thousands of spiritual stones? Flying boats were not only expensive but also consumed spiritual stones due to the flying arrays on board. Therefore, traveling on a flying boat was an extremely costly endeavor. Junior brother Ji-in, what are you staring at? Come aboard, Guitao said lightly, leaping onto the flying boat. Senior brother Gua, you actually have your own flying boat. Songwen's tone carried envy, like a university graduate worried about finding a decent job. Suddenly discovering his classmates were sitting on a gold mine at home, Guitao replied smugly, a flying boat is just a trifle. Songwen jumped onto the flying boat and ran his hands over the array patterns on it. His eyes gleamed as if he were handling a rare treasure he had never seen before. Guitao grinned broadly, clearly pleased with himself. Junior brother, take your seat. We're setting off. The flying boat soared into the sky, speeding towards the distant vast mountains and forests. With senior brother Gua's flying boat, we'll probably reach the poison miasma swamp in just a few hours. Songwen continued to praise, my strength is weak, and I've only been in the sect for a year, so my understanding of the cultivation world is limited. I'll have to rely on senior brother Gua a lot for this mission. Guitao seemed genuinely flattered by Songwen's praise, patting his chest proudly. Junior brother, rest assured, this mission is extremely simple, just a formality. When the time comes, leave everything to me and you can treat it as a sightseeing trip. Besides, who knows, maybe we'll even get some benefits from the Yen family. Benefits? Songwen looked somewhat surprised. The Yen family will give us benefits? Guitao said confidently, that's natural, we represent the sect. If the Yen family wants a smooth inventory, they will naturally treat us well with good food and drink. When we leave, they may also give us some rewards. After we finish at the Yen family, leave everything to me, junior brother, just wait for the benefits. Songwen clasped his hands, I'll leave it to senior brother, I will definitely look up to senior brother. Although Songwen said this, he felt something was off. Guitao's eagerness seemed a bit exaggerated, like an older brother looking after a junior who had just entered the sect. Songwen couldn't help but feel that the other party wouldn't be so kind without reason. Within the corpse demon sect, disciples were typically cold and ruthless, full of deception and treachery. Warm-hearted senior brothers among fellow disciples simply did not exist unless there was something they coveted about you. Amidst Songwen's flattery, their relationship quickly grew closer. The flying boat soared through the air, directly crossing over mountains much faster than traveling on the ground. Before the sun set, they arrived at the poison miasma swamp. Looking from above, the swamp waters weren't deep, about the depth of a person. It was dotted with deep pools and small islands. Even in the evening, a grim green mist hung over the swamp, likely the source of its name, the toxic miasma that lingered. Year-round, Guitao didn't rush into the miasma but circled around the edge of the swamp for dozens of miles before finally stopping above a small island. As soon as they landed, for Qi refinement stage cultivators rushed out from the woods. Who are you? How dare you trespass into the Yen family's territory? Facing the aggressive approach of the four, Guitao smiled and stepped forward. We greet the senior brothers of the Yen family. We are disciples of the corpse demon sect here to carry out sect missions. As he spoke, Guitao presented his disciple identity token. The leader carefully examined the token and, after confirming its authenticity, spoke up, so you are disciples from the corpse demon sect, please follow me. Led by this person, Songwen and Guitao quickly crossed the small island and arrived at a wooden-built pier. The pier was long and winding, stretching endlessly out of sight. Once on the pier, Songwen soon noticed that there was no toxic miasma around it, as if it had been sealed off by an array. The three walked along the pier for over 20 miles until they finally saw a vast island. The island was dotted with numerous buildings, especially the central complex, which appeared grand and imposing, likely the core area of the Yen family's residence. Upon reaching the island, the three quickly entered a large hall. Seated at the head of the hall was a man with slightly graying hair, the patriarch of the Yen family, Yen Zhengping. After exchanging pleasantries, Guotao directly stated their purpose. Yen Zhengping spoke loudly, "Young friends, it's already late today. Please rest at my Yen family's place tonight. Tomorrow morning, I will send someone to take you to the spirit field to inventory the rainbow grass. How about it?" Glancing at the sky where the sun had already completely set, leaving only a faint glow illuminating the earth, Guotao nodded. "We will follow the arrangements of the Yen family." Yen Zhengping nodded. "I have already prepared excellent guest rooms. Let someone take you there to rest." Guotao and Songwen stood up, preparing to follow the servant to their rooms. "Grandpa." A clear female voice suddenly rang out in the hall, and a youthful and beautiful figure appeared at the door. The newcomer had bright eyes and brows, red lips, dressed in a light blue long dress, exuding a lively charm unique to young girls. End of the chapter. Chapter 54. Facing the sudden appearance of the girl, Yen Zhengping's face showed both indulgence and helplessness. "Yiwen, didn't I ask you to focus on your cultivation? Why did you come out again?" "Cultivation is too boring. I've been cultivating all day today. It's too dull," the girl replied nonchalantly to Yen Zhengping's questioning. Yen Zhengping shook his head helplessly. Although his granddaughter had excellent aptitude, her temperament was a bit lacking. Too independent, he sighed and didn't pursue her stubbornness further, instead changing the subject. "You've come at the right time. These two are outstanding disciples of the sect. You are all young people. You can chat and exchange ideas, broaden your horizons, which will benefit your future cultivation." After speaking, Yen Zhengping briefly introduced the three. Although Yen Zhengping's introduction of the girl was vague, Songwen recognized her from the intelligence reports as the genius of the Yen family. Curious, Songwen looked at her more closely. Even though he had seen all sorts of beauties in both real life and on the internet in his past life, Songwen had to admit that this girl was exceptionally beautiful, rare in the world. The only flaw was a hint of arrogance, perhaps a flaw common among geniuses. While Songwen was observing the girl, she was also observing him. Normally, Guotao's handsome appearance would attract more attention from women. However, for some reason, Yen Yiwen's eyes skipped over Guotao directly and landed on Songwen, who seemed average in the background. After carefully observing Songwen for a while, Yen Yiwen suddenly chuckled with a hint of disdain in her expression. "Grandpa, he's only at the third stage of chi refinement. What kind of outstanding disciple is he? He's just an ordinary outer sect disciple." Even though Songwen could remain calm in the face of praise or ridicule, at this moment he felt a bit annoyed and embarrassed. This genius of the Yen family was indeed quite rude to openly mock his low cultivation level. Cough, cough. Feeling awkward, not just Songwen, but Yen Zhengping was also extremely embarrassed at this moment. He never expected that his granddaughter would speak so disrespectfully in public. Although strength was respected in the cultivation world, social niceties were also important. Normally, Yen Zhengping wouldn't pay attention to an outer sect disciple like Songwen who had such low strength. However, at this moment, Songwen represented the sect and had come to inventory spiritual herbs for the Yen family. Yen Zhengping looked at Yen Yiwen with an annoyed expression. "Yiwen, mind your words," quickly apologized to young friend Jin. Seeing her grandfather angry, Yen Yiwen felt indignant. She defended herself with an unhappy expression. "Why should I apologize? I didn't say anything wrong. He is indeed just an ordinary outer sect disciple with extremely mediocre potential. What's there to chat about between us?" After saying this, Yen Yiwen quickly walked out of the hall. Seeing his granddaughter leave, Yen Zhengping apologized to Songwen with a regretful expression. "Young friend Ji-in, I apologize. My granddaughter has been spoiled and speaks without restraint. She has offended you just now. I hope you won't take it to heart." Songwen remained composed, as if the insult hadn't affected him. "Elder Yen, there's no need for apologies. Miss Yiwen simply stated the truth and did not offend me." Yen Zhengping flipped his hand, revealing a jade bottle. "In this jade bottle are 10 chi gathering pills as a compensation from my granddaughter to you." Yen Zhengping pushed his spiritual energy and the jade bottle floated towards Songwen. Songwen was somewhat surprised. 10 chi gathering pills were worth 25 spiritual stones for a chi refinement stage 3 cultivator. This was quite generous. A look of pleasantly surprised gratitude appeared on Songwen's face as he tightly grasped the jade bottle and said, "Thank you for your generous gift, Elder Yen." After bidding farewell to Yan Jingping, Songwen and Guotao followed the servant to their rooms. After instructing Songwen not to wander around at night, Guotao entered his own room first. Later, Songwen stepped into his own room and closed the door behind him. With a calm mind, Songwen began to reflect on the events of the day. Overall, the day had been smooth, except for Yan Yiwen's sudden rudeness. However, Songwen couldn't shake the feeling that Yan Yiwen's appearance and her disrespectful words seemed rather abrupt, almost as if they were deliberately arranged. Songwen couldn't understand why a Qi refinement stage 7 cultivator would act so recklessly. Unable to make sense of it all, Songwen shook his head. Pushing aside his jumbled thoughts, he took out the jade slip given to him by Elder Shin and placed it on his forehead to examine it. The contents about the rainbow grass recorded in the jade slip were largely consistent with what Shin Yi had provided, except it detailed the quantity of rainbow grass cultivated by the Yen family. There were 113 plants of rainbow grass in the 100 portions category, 931 plants of rainbow grass in the 70 portions or more category, the count for the 60 portions category of rainbow grass. The jade slip clearly stipulated that the main task of this inventory was to carefully count the quantities of rainbow grass in the 100 portions and 70 portions categories, ensuring the counts were accurate. As for the other categories of spiritual herbs, minor discrepancies in quantities were acceptable. The jade slip didn't provide any information about the Yen family's strength, which made Songwen feel that the 30 spiritual stones he spent on buying information from Chen Yi were still worthwhile. Knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Who's there? In this unfamiliar environment, Songwen remained alert. The unexpected knocking made him instantly vigilant, his hand already at his waist, ready to summon the corpse puppet at any moment. Senior Ji-in. I'm a servant from the Yen mansion here to deliver your dinner. A female voice sounded from outside the door. Using his mental power to sense, Songwen discovered there was only a young woman outside the door, without any cultivation. However, he remained cautious and approached to open the door. A young maidservant stood elegantly outside the door, holding a tray. Please come in. After a quick scan revealed nothing unusual, Songwen spoke softly. The maidservant entered and placed the tray on the table before taking her leave. Songwen looked at the food on the table: spiritual rice, demon beast meat, all skillfully prepared with excellent taste and aroma. Muttering to himself, the Yen family really spares no expense. Meanwhile, in a secluded room of the Yen mansion, 5 people were gathered, discussing in hushed tones. If Songwen were present, he would surely be shocked. Among the 5 people in the room, there was someone he would never have expected. That person was Guotao, who was tasked with this mission alongside him. Yan Zhengping's expression was serious as he asked, Xiao Tao, what is your assessment of Ji-in? Guotao replied, reporting to the patriarch, Ji-in has only recently joined the sect and is weak in strength. He comes from a humble background with no significant connections. Overall, he is just a young and inexperienced kid. There's no need to worry about him. In my opinion, he's quite easy to deceive. As long as we prepare a little, he won't notice anything abnormal. Moreover, on the way here, I've repeatedly instructed him not to take the mission seriously. He just needs to follow behind me, complete the task smoothly, and he'll even gain some benefits. End of the chapter. Chapter 55. After Guotao paused for a moment, he continued, Today, Yiwen deliberately provoked and publicly humiliated him. Ji-in dared not speak out. After receiving the gathering Qi pill, he even felt grateful. It shows that this person is timid and spineless, unworthy of further concern. Yan Zhengming heard this and gradually relaxed his furrowed brow, nodding in agreement. You make some valid points, but we mustn't be complacent. Despite Ji Yin's calm demeanor in the face of Yiwen's humiliation, his qi cultivation is still decent. Most other cultivators at the age of 15 or 16 would react with anger, if not outright rage. At this moment, a burly man in the room spoke with a booming voice, Brother, you're overthinking it. Given our Yen family's foundation, would a qi refinement stage 3 junior dare to rage? If you're truly concerned, why not take decisive action and eliminate the kid directly? That way, there'd be no risk of exposing the secret of the rainbow grass. Yan Zhengming glared unkindly at his third brother, displeased with his strong but muscle-headed demeanor. Foolish. Ji-in is still young and weak in strength, easy to deceive. Killing him might attract attention from the corpse demon sect and increase the risk of exposing the secret of the rainbow grass. After reprimanding his third brother, Yan Zhengming turned his gaze to Guotao and said, Xiao Tao, for the sake of the family's development, you've endured a lot over the years. TL note, Xiaotao Guotao's nickname Xiao is a prefix meaning little or small, often used as a term of endearment by the older generation for youngsters. A few years ago, you concealed your identity and infiltrated the corpse demon sect alone. Without any help from the family, relying solely on your talent and relentless effort, you became an inner disciple, which was no easy feat. At this critical juncture, you've even secured the task of inventorying for the family, a significant contribution indeed. If the family's plan succeeds this time, your hard work will be remembered. In the future, there will definitely be a foundation establishment pill for you. Guotao's expression became slightly emotional upon hearing this, saying, I am Yen family's man, dedicated to the Yen family, willing to give my all, even unto death. Yen Zhiming continued, although Xiaotao is in charge of this inventory mission, necessary arrangements are still needed. After all, Jiyin is also involved. If he hasn't even inspected the spirit field, it would be unreasonable. We cannot relax our vigilance towards Jiyin. Xiaotao, you must keep a close eye on him. If you sense any suspicion from him, report it promptly. If absolutely necessary, you can even execute him on the spot. Yes, Guotao replied. Yen Zhiming then asked the others in the room, how many days will it take to set up the spirit field? Approximately 7 days, someone answered. Move swiftly with the arrangements. Yes, responded the others in the room. The next morning, at dawn, Songwen opened his door, intending to explore the nearby area and observe the surroundings while stretching his body. Creak. At that moment, Guotao's neighboring door also opened. Junior Jiyin, up so early, where are you off to? Asked Guotao. Senior Guo, just exploring the new surroundings. It's unfamiliar, so I thought I'd take a look around, replied Songwen. Guotao's expression turned slightly serious as he said, I just received word from Master Yen that there's been a sudden outbreak of miasmatides in the poisonous miasma swamp. The miasma outside the Yen family's residence has surged, becoming more toxic. The entire swamp is now unsuitable for human activity, even for a late chi refinement cultivator like me. The inventory mission will be postponed for a few days. During this time, the two of us should stay in our rooms and not wander around. We're unfamiliar with this place. If we accidentally enter a miasma-infested area, we might lose our lives. A look of fear appeared on Songwen's youthful face. Just as I stepped out, there's an outbreak of miasmatides. That's truly terrifying. I'll stay in my room for safety. I'm going back. With that, Songwen turned and walked back into his room. Watching Songwen's door close once more, Guotao's lips curled into a faint smile. A rookie like him is really easy to deceive. Back in his room, Songwen's mind was filled with suspicion. Guotao's behavior seemed odd. He had just stepped out and Guotao immediately opened his door, which seemed too coincidental, as if Guotao had intentionally waited for him. Moreover, Guotao mentioned the miasmatide, which was also mentioned in the jade slip provided by Chen Yi. The appearance of miasmatides had no regular pattern. They occurred roughly every 2 to 3 years, accompanied by colorful auroras in the sky. Regarding the phenomena during miasmatides, some had speculated that there might be hidden treasures in the poisonous miasma swamp. However, after generations of cultivators searching, there had been no findings. Gradually, no one mentioned it anymore. When Songwen observed outside the door just now, he noticed that the sky beyond the large array barrier was normal as usual, murky gray. There were absolutely no signs of the miasmatide phenomenon mentioned in the intel. Furthermore, since entering the Yen family, Guotao had repeatedly warned him not to wander, seemingly concerned for his safety but more like intentionally or unintentionally confining Songwen. Also, Guotao's words just now had inconsistencies. It was absolutely not foolish for Songwen to wander near the boundary of the Yen family array. Songwen couldn't believe that miasma could infiltrate the array. If that were the case, the lower-level disciples and ordinary people in the Yen family would have long since perished. Songwen couldn't help but harbor some suspicion towards Guotao. He suddenly realized that Elder Shin's message before his departure was not without purpose. However, Songwen did not directly express any doubts to Guotao. If Guotao was indeed in league with the Yen family, then Songwen was alone in this. For now, he could only let the other party manipulate him to ensure his survival. The sect mission would have to be put on hold for the time being. Over the next few days, Songwen's door remained closed, only occasionally opening it to get some fresh air by the doorway before returning to his room. Songwen knew that there must have been some problem with the spirit field, and the Yen family was using this time to make certain preparations. In collusion with Guotao, the Yen family only needed to deceive him, a seemingly Qi refinement stage 3 cultivator on the surface, to smoothly pass the sect inventory. End of the chapter. Chapter 56. TL Note. Clear heaven translated from Lingtian is the water field where rainbow herb is planted. On this day, Guitao suddenly knocked on Song Wen's door. Junior brother Ji-in, the tide of miasma is receding, and we will inventory the rainbow grass in clear heaven tomorrow. Hearing this, Song Wen knew that the disguise of clear heaven should have been prepared long ago. He couldn't help feeling a bit at a loss. He didn't know how to handle the upcoming inventory if he continued to let the Yen family manipulate him. Although he could survive and leave the Yen family for the time being, he would temporarily save his own life. But if the problem in clear heaven couldn't be discovered, once the problem was exposed, he would definitely be implicated, and the sect would certainly investigate his negligence. Facing the punishment of the sect, he might end up in a dilemma. Just thinking about the terrifying punishments of the corpse demon sect, Song Wen felt a chill. Should I defect from the sect? Before the problem with clear heaven was discovered by the corpse demon sect, fleeing from the sect might be the only option Song Wen could think of, with a slim chance of success. But could he really escape the endless pursuit of the corpse demon sect? As Song Wen was lost in thought, he arrived at the door and opened it. Seeing the smiling Guitao, when he noticed Song Wen's uneasy expression, he pretended to show concern. Junior brother Ji-in, what's wrong? Why do you look so worried? Song Wen suddenly realized that he seemed to be overthinking things, and his poorly managed expression had been noticed by Guitao. With mountains and rivers blocking one's way, another village appears after darkness lifts from the flowers. No matter how bad the situation is, there will always be a way out. Song Wen reminded himself in his heart. After figuring this out, a smile appeared on Song Wen's face. This time it wasn't fake. He believed that step by careful step, he would find a breakthrough. It's nothing lately. My cultivation progress hasn't been smooth, so I'm a bit worried. Song Wen made up a nonsense excuse. On the path of cultivation, obstacles are many and patience is key. Guitao said, "Thank you for your guidance, senior brother Gua. I understand." Song Wen said. Guitao continued, "Tomorrow, after we complete the inventory of the rainbow grass, we can return to the sect. Everything will be arranged by senior brother Gua." To Song Wen's surprise, Yen Jingping, as the head of the Yen family, actually participated personally in this inventory. Under Yen Jingping's leadership, 3 Qi refining stage later cultivators from the Yen family, 13 mid-Qi refining stage cultivators, along with Song Wen and Guitao, a total of 19 people, boarded a large ship. This ship seemed to be specially made, and who knows what kind of array was inscribed on it. The ship had a very shallow draft, floating lightly on the water's surface like a weightless leaf, capable of navigating through the swamp. The poisonous swamp wasn't very deep. In shallow areas, it was only about half a meter deep. Only such a specially made ship could navigate through the swamp. Ordinary ships would risk running aground as soon as they entered the water. Yen Jingping flipped his hand, revealing a jade bottle. "Come, everyone, take the miasma detoxifying pill first." This miasma detoxifying pill was made by the Yen family specifically to resist the toxicity of the miasma, each pill capable of protecting against miasma for about 4 hours. Song Wen took the medicine without hesitation. In the current situation, the Yen family had no reason to kill him. Moreover, even if the Yen family wanted to kill him, they wouldn't resort to poison. He also noticed that among the group of 19 people, including Yen Jingping, there were 4 Qi refining stage later cultivators who hadn't taken the medicine. This was because the Yen family practiced a poisonous technique where they would refine various toxins into their bodies during cultivation, giving them much higher resistance to poisons than ordinary people. These Qi refining stage later Yen family cultivators clearly had profound cultivation and, due to long-term cultivation in the miasma, could already resist the toxicity of the swamp miasma with just their physical bodies. The large boat meandered through the swampy forest, and after about half an hour, the boat finally stopped. Throughout the journey, Song Wen silently recorded the ship's route in his mind. Fortunately, Chanyi had provided him with a rough map of the entire swamp in the jade slip, which allowed Song Wen to roughly judge his position. He initially thought that clear heaven should be in the central area of the swamp, but upon his calculations, clear heaven was not in the central area but rather about 2.5 miles away from the edge. This area was rich in miasma and spiritual energy, making it extremely suitable for the cultivation of rainbow grass. However, there was no solid land around clear heaven, only water, which was unsuitable for human habitation. This was probably why the Yen family didn't establish a residence nearby. Dear young friends, ahead is the rainbow grass cultivation field in Clear heaven, Yan Zhengping said to Guotao and Songwen. Looking ahead, they saw dense trees everywhere, almost obscuring the sky, suddenly opening up. A dozen miles wide water area unexpectedly had no trees, which was very strange, of course. There might have been some trees that were cleared away by the Yen family. In the central area of the open water area, there were thick grass patches floating on the surface of the water. From afar, it looked like a thick green carpet laid out on the water's surface. This was a kind of grass called ghost spirit grass that formed these grass patches. Ghost spirit grass had extremely long roots that could penetrate up to 1 meter into the mud below the water surface. While the stem and leaf parts floated on the water surface, forming thick grass patches, the patches of grass were trimmed by the Yen family into 1 zhang wide and several zhang long grass patches, with each patch of water grass being 1 zhang high. Between each patch of water grass, there was a distance of about 1 zhang. Looking around, rows of neatly arranged grass patches floated on the water surface, extending as far as the eye could see, quite spectacular. On the water grass patches, every 1 to 2 meters. There was a colorful rainbow grass about 2 chi tall. This was the rainbow grass. Rainbow grass was like a parasitic spiritual plant that relied on absorbing spiritual energy from ghost spirit grass to survive. Quite mystical. Rainbow grass of various ages was distributed on the water grass patches, ranging from single-color ones less than 10 years old to those with all 7 colors and over 70 years old, in the central area of clear heaven. Songwen also noticed many rainbow grass plants with black stripes on the edges of their leaves, which were probably over 100 years old spiritual medicines. Yan Zhengping pointed to the grass patches ahead and said proudly, Guotao, Ji-in, please look. This is the water-based rainbow grass. Cultivation field painstakingly built by countless predecessors of my Yen family after enduring countless hardships and sacrifices of many predecessors. On the left side are these 50 patches of grass, mainly cultivating low-aged spiritual medicines. Although the value of individual spiritual medicines is not high, the advantage lies in their quantity, bringing considerable annual income. On the right side are these 40 patches of grass, mainly cultivating 70-year-old spiritual medicines, which can be used to refine profound chi pills. The 30 patches of grass in the middle are mainly used to cultivate spiritual medicines over 100 years old, but cultivating spiritual medicines over 100 years old is very difficult. Many rainbow grass plants wither halfway, resulting in significant losses. In addition, the sect regularly harvests some 100-year-old spiritual medicines each year, so currently there are only 113 100-year-old spiritual medicine plants in clear heaven. The main task for you two in this inventory mission is to inventory the 70-year-old and 100-year-old spiritual medicines. As for the spiritual medicines below 70 years old, their quantity is too large to be easily inventoried one by one. End of the chapter. Chapter 57. Because this large boat is too big and the spacing between the grass patches is too small, it's not enough for the big boat to pass through. Therefore, we need to switch to a smaller boat to enter the clear heaven, Yan Zhengping said to Songwen and Guotao. Men, lower the small boat. 2 mid-level chi refining Yen family cultivators dragged a small boat out of the ship's cabin. The small boat was about 6 meters long and 1 meter wide. The small boat was quickly placed into the water. Yan Zhengping said, board the small boat. As soon as he finished speaking, the 4 later-stage chi refining Yen family cultivators all flew onto the small boat together. The small boat, which already had limited buoyancy, immediately sank more than a foot. The distance from the water surface to the boat's gunwale was now less than a foot. As if a small wave could flood into the boat, Yan Zhengping continued. This small boat can only accommodate up to 5 people. Guotao, Ji-in, you two decide who will board, and the rest of us will go to inventory the spirit grass. As for the other person, they can only stay on the big boat. Songwen was somewhat stunned as he watched Yan Zhengping's performance. He had pondered countless times before how the Yen family would cover up the issues in clear heaven now. He finally understood. The Yen family had no intention of letting him enter the clear heaven area at all. They only wanted him to watch from afar. Although Yan Zhengping said that either he or Guotao could enter clear heaven, it was clear that Guotao, with higher cultivation, would go in. Moreover, Guotao was the one in charge of this inventory mission. While he was just a follower with lower cultivation, Guotao glanced at the somewhat stunned Songwen and said, Junior Ji-in, you stay on the big boat. I will accompany Master Yen into clear heaven. Songwen's expression was somewhat odd. There were too many loopholes in Yan Zhengping and Guotao's words. If one small boat could only carry 5 people, Why couldn't the Yen family just take one less person so that Song-won could also board? If the 4 Yen family cultivators in the later stage of chi refining had to all go, why didn't they prepare an extra small boat? This was clearly treating him like a fool. After a moment of contemplation, Song-won said, Master Yen Senior Gua, I also have received a mission from the sect to personally inventory the quantity of rainbow grass. Now that I can't even enter clear heaven, it will reflect poorly on the sect. Originally, Song-won had mentally prepared himself that during this period with the Yen family, his actions would be manipulated by them and Guo, however. This was too blatant, treating him completely like a fool. If he didn't even raise any questions, that wouldn't be normal. Yen Jingping laughed loudly and said, My apologies. I didn't explain clearly to Junior Ji-in. The water in this swamp is often shrouded in poisonous mist and miasma, making it highly toxic and corrosive. Ordinary wooden boats would be corroded and sunk in no time. The small boat under my feet is made of ling material, backing wood, which can resist the corrosiveness of the swamp water. Due to the rarity and expense of backing wood, it's extremely difficult to collect enough to make a boat. Therefore, even for my Yen family, it's extremely rare to have boats that can navigate in the swamp. For this inventory, we can only mobilize one small boat. This is why we can only allow one person to enter clear heaven. I hope Junior Ji-in can understand. Although Yen Zhengping's explanation was full of holes, Song-won knew that he couldn't continue questioning further. If I continue like this, it's very likely to embarrass the other party and invite a thunderous strike. Song-won bowed his fist to Yen Jingping. Thank you, Master Yen, for clarifying. He then turned to Guo and said, Senior Gua, please take care. Guo nodded and swiftly boarded the small boat. At this moment, Yen Zhengping continued, Ji-in, you need not worry. Although you cannot personally board the small boat to enter clear heaven, I have here a magical tool that will allow you to see a glimpse of clear heaven. Yen Zhengping suddenly produced a bronze mirror about the size of a basin in his hand, and in the other hand he held a fist-sized stone. This mirror is called the Retaining Image Mirror, a middle-grade magical tool. It complements the shadow stone in my hand. As long as one person holds the shadow stone and activates it with spiritual energy, and another holds the retaining image mirror within 100 feet, they can see an image near the shadow stone. Having said that, Yen Zhengping gave the bronze mirror to Song-won and the shadow stone to Guo. Later, I will trouble friend Guo to activate the shadow stone. This way, Ji-in can see a glimpse of your surroundings. Guo, with the face full of astonishment, exclaimed, I didn't expect Master Yen to have such a miraculous treasure. With this, Junior Ji-in can experience a glimpse of clear heaven as if he were there. As the small boat gradually drifted away, Yen family cultivators also set up a prepared wooden frame for Song-won to place the bronze mirror on. On Guo's end, he activated the shadow stone. And suddenly the scene ahead of Guo appeared in the bronze mirror. As the small boat entered the clear heaven area, Song-won also saw a glimpse of clear heaven on his end. The first area the small boat entered was the century-old clear heaven range. Due to the immense spiritual energy required for the growth of century-old spiritual medicines, rainbow grass was sparsely distributed, with tens of meters between each plant. The image in the bronze mirror was clear, showing the leaves and patterns of the rainbow grass vividly. Song-won stared at the image, not missing any details. Each leaf of these century-old rainbow grass plants had colorful distributions with clear black patterns along the edges of the leaves, perfectly matching the description in the ancient records about century-old rainbow grass. However, perhaps because the image was transmitted by the magical tool, Song-won couldn't examine it up close with his own eyes or perceive it with his spiritual power, giving him a somewhat unreal feeling about these images. It was like watching a movie in a theater in his past life. No matter how realistic the special effects were, there was always a sense of falseness deep inside. After watching for a while, Song-won confirmed in his heart that there seemed to be no problem with the appearance of these century-old rainbow grass, but he thought to himself, if only he could examine them up close. Glancing around, there were more than 10 Yen family cultivators on the boat. Initially, they were all curious about the bronze mirror, but now they had dispersed, chatting or meditating, and no one was paying attention to Song-won anymore. After standing in front of the bronze mirror for a while, feeling somewhat bored, Song-won began to look around. Then he started to gaze into the distance towards the clear heaven. End of the chapter. Chapter 58. Song-won's every move appeared casual, but it attracted special attention from the Yen family cultivators on the ship. None of the Yen family cultivators on the ship noticed that a small gray bug followed Song Wen's hand on the ship's side and crawled down along the hull. This was an ordinary goo worm after months of nurturing goo worms. Song Wen had also summarized some experiences. Although the combat power of the black-bellied goo worm was stronger and its emitted aura more powerful, it was easier to be detected by people. In contrast, ordinary goo worms were weaker in strength and emitted a faint aura similar to ordinary insects, making them difficult to detect. With Song Wen's current 5th layer of Qi training, his spiritual power could sense within a radius of over 100 meters, which was still insufficient to perceive the spiritual field. However, when he attached his spiritual power to the goo worm, he could extend his perception range to over 400 meters. Enough to sense the range of the spiritual field. Controlling the goo worm, Song Wen landed the goo worm on the nearest clump of rainbow grass. Instantly, with the help of the goo worm, Song Wen's spiritual power enveloped this clump of rainbow grass. Perceiving everything about it, firstly, the spiritual energy was sparse. The aura of this rainbow grass felt unusually sparse to Song Wen, not at all like a 100-year spiritual herb, more like a herb barely reaching 10-year. Song Wen felt strange and began to carefully examine this rainbow grass. After a moment, Song Wen could confirm that this rainbow grass was indeed a 10-year herb. The rainbow colors on its leaves and the black patterns on the edges of its leaves had been dyed with dyes, making it look like a 100-year spiritual herb from a distance. I didn't expect that even in the cultivation world, one could encounter fraudulent merchants. Song Wen sighed inwardly. It seemed that even the most peripheral spiritual herbs in the spiritual field had been swapped by the Yen family's scheming. It was feared that all the 100-year spiritual herbs in the spiritual field had disappeared, and even those 70-year spiritual herbs were likely taken away by the Yen family. Later, the Yen family would disguise low-year spiritual herbs as high-year ones, deceive the corpse demon sect, and complete the inventory of the sect. However, Song Wen was somewhat puzzled. Who gave the Yen family such audacity to steal from the corpse demon sect, monitoring and stealing their personal possessions? Song Wen also couldn't understand why the Yen family, having already transferred the high-year spiritual herbs, continued to linger in the poisonous marshes. Seemingly unafraid of being discovered by the corpse demon sect and having the entire Yen family wiped out, could it be that the Yen family had no choice but to temporarily stay in the poisonous marshes? Perhaps there are still some high-year spiritual herbs left and the production volume is low, so the Yen family has to take risks and stay in the poisonous marshes to cultivate rainbow grass. Song Wen speculated as he looked at the distant spiritual field. A 100-year spiritual herb did not necessarily mean that the herb had grown for 100 years. Various factors such as the spiritual energy of the heavens and earth, climate conditions, and soil spiritual power would affect the growth of spiritual herbs. For example, in mundane places with thin spiritual energy, the probability of wild spiritual herbs appearing was very low, and herbs above 100-year were almost impossible to appear. In some rich spiritual environments, there would often exist extremely rare high-year spiritual herbs. This was the result of the influence of the environment on the growth of spiritual herbs. The Yen family had cultivated rainbow grass for many years and had also developed a set of optimal planting methods most suitable for rainbow grass. By using the best planting methods and the suitable environment of the poisonous marshes, they greatly accelerated the growth rate of rainbow grass. Therefore, Song Wen speculated that the Yen family was very likely cultivating a batch of high-year rainbow grass, and when they matured this batch, they would probably flee as a whole. Thinking silently in his heart, Song Wen paced back to the bronze mirror, pretending to watch the images inside. He had already discovered the Yen family's embezzlement of the rainbow grass secrets, effectively completing the sect's inventory mission. Now, his priority was to return to the sect alive and report the matter to the sect leaders. Meanwhile, Yan Zhengping, accompanied by his people and Guitao, spent nearly 2 hours casually inspecting the high-yield spiritual field area, then returned to the large ship. As soon as they boarded, Guitao, with a smile on his face, loudly addressed Song Wen, Junior Jiin, there are no issues with the spiritual herbs. I have just meticulously counted the high-yield spiritual herbs in the field, and there are no discrepancies in quantity. I believe Brother Ji has also inspected the field through the bronze mirror and seen everything. Song Wen nodded and said, Brother Guo's words are accurate. Our mission this time has been successfully completed. When shall we depart for the sect? Upon hearing this, Guitao and the senior Yen family cultivators all showed a hint of joy in their eyes. Yan Zhengping said to Song Wen, Young Jiin, why the rush? After returning to our Yen family residence, let us host and entertain both of you properly. There's no rush for you to leave. Otherwise, if our sect colleagues find out, they might criticize our Yen family for being impetuous and neglectful. Songwon hesitated and looked at Guatao, waiting for his decision. He knew he couldn't appear too eager. If the Yen family detected any suspicions, it wouldn't be good. Seeing Songwon's gaze, Guatao, as the ostensible leader of this expedition, gave Songwon a reassuring smile and then turned to Yen Zhengping, saying, "Thank you, Master Yen, for your hospitality. However, we still have sect missions to complete, so we can't stay long." Yen Zhengping replied, "Then let's have a banquet tonight, and tomorrow morning you can depart." Guatao added, "It's all up to Master Yan's arrangements." Standing aside, Songwon silently observed their performance. He had to admit that their performance was very professional. If he hadn't already known something was amiss, Songwon would have definitely seen Yen Zhengping as a warmly hospitable elder and Guatao as a responsible fellow sect member. The large ship slowly started and headed towards the Yen family residence. At that moment, suddenly, a crisis emerged. Over a dozen figures clad in black armor leaped out from the depths of the swamp forest. Upon emerging, they immediately launched a variety of long-prepared spells and techniques towards the large ship. There were blazing fireballs, invisible wind blades, eerie specters exuding gloomy aura, and blades shrouded in malevolent chi. Seeing the ambush, everyone on the large ship's expression changed drastically. "Not good, it's an ambush. Activate the defense barrier." Yen Zhengping's face turned cold as he shouted loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, an invisible barrier appeared out of thin air, completely enveloping the entire ship. Countless attacks landed on the barrier, accompanied by deafening explosions. The barrier ruptured in several places due to the impact, causing the ship to sway violently as if it could capsize at any moment. Fiery red flames, eerie ghostly aura, poisonous green miasma, various energies erupted around the ship, obscuring the sky. Combined with the splashes of water everywhere from the explosions, Songwon felt as if he were in a world on the brink of apocalypse. End of the chapter. Chapter 59. Feeling the terrifying energy outside the protective barrier, Songwon sensed himself like a small boat in the midst of towering waves in the deep sea, constantly on the verge of being engulfed and swallowed by immense waves, drawn into an endless abyss. The strength of these black-clothed individuals was extraordinary. Each attack was beyond what Songwon could withstand. All these people are at the late chi refinement stage. Even at the 8th and 9th layers, Songwon's heart trembled. But thinking about it, it made sense. Without sufficient strength, who would dare venture into the poisonous miasma swamps to trouble the Yen family? On the ship, everyone from the Yen family, including Guatao, under Yen Zhengping's command, was dispersed across various corners of the ship, preparing their respective spells. Some summoned defensive artifacts, others activated runes, and some prepared offensive spells. Only Songwon seemed forgotten by everyone, completely ignored. Observing the scene, Songwon quietly moved towards the stern of the ship. Songwon understood that there was no one to protect him at this moment. Perhaps the Yen family even wished for his demise, diverting the attention of the corpse demon sect away from inventorying the rainbow grass, focusing instead on chasing these black-clothed individuals, summoning his corpse puppet. Songwon positioned it in front of him. His right hand gripped the ghost head shield, ready to activate it at any moment. His left hand held a flight talisman, poised and ready. By now, the large ship had sailed to the edge of the dense forest, surrounded by large trees. With his physical strength, Songwon could leap tens of meters to nearby trees with effort. Later, aided by the flight talisman, he could quickly disappear into the depths of the forest. The shield art was also activated by Songwon. As his spiritual power grew stronger, the defensive capability of the shield art was no longer comparable to its previous state. However, against the attacks of these late chi refinement cultivators, it was still somewhat inadequate, but better than nothing, providing Songwon with some defense at this moment among the group of black-clothed individuals. A middle-aged cultivator about 40 to 50 years old flew out. He was the leader of these black-clothed individuals. Ghost 3, floating in midair. Ghost 3 had a fully red demonic suppression staff in front of him, carved with fierce ghostly figures, emitting rolling malevolent aura from the mouth of the ghost. Ghost 3 shouted loudly, "I didn't expect this ship's barrier to be so tough. Like a turtle shell, it can actually withstand the attacks of over a dozen late chi refinement cultivators." Yen Zhengping, afraid that you've used all the spiritual stones accumulated by the Yen family over the years to build these turtle shells. Seeing Ghost 3 appear, Yen Zhengping's face filled with immense anger. "Ghost 3, you were chased to a miserable escape by my Yen family years ago instead of living properly. Today you dare to collude with a group of criminals and challenge the dignity of my Yen family again." Yan Jinping, your Yan family massacred my entire clan back then. Today, I will take it all back, Ghost 3 hoarsely roared. Yan Jinping glanced around. The protective barrier of the large ship was now somewhat precarious under the attacks of the black-clothed cultivators. His face turned even colder, and he said coldly, "Humph. A group of petty characters dare to speak of invading my Yen family, truly ignorant of the heights of heaven and earth. My Yen family has a foundation establishment ancestor presiding, and behind us is the protection of the corpse demon sect." Yan Zhongping's voice was full of disdain for the black-clothed individuals, but the words spoken carried a hint of threat, almost as if lacking confidence. Anyone with discerning eyes could see that the strength of the black-clothed individuals on the field far exceeded that of Yan Zhongping's side. Currently, there were already more than 10 black-clothed individuals present, all at the late Qi refinement stage, with 4 of them even at the 9th layer looking at the Yan family's side. There are only 4 late Qi refinement cultivators and only 2 cultivators at the 9th layer. Moreover, these black-clothed individuals should be constantly on the edge of life and death, ruthless and decisive in their actions. They exude an intense murderous intent. Even through the defensive barrier, Songwon could feel the terrifying aura emanating from them. However, as the local power, the Yen family has managed the poisonous miasma swamp for more than a century. It's hard to believe. They would be so easily defeated without any contingency plans. Songwon absolutely didn't believe it. Foundation establishment ancestor. Corpse demon sect. Ha ha. Upon hearing this, Ghost 3 seemed to hear an incredibly funny joke and laughed insanely. Do you think that we, along with these fellow Taoists, would dare attack your Yen family without any preparation? Over the years, I, Ghost 3, have secretly investigated information about the Yen family. Your Yen family's ancestor has long been aged and out of sight for over a decade. Even if not dead, he is probably withered and unable to exert much combat power. Your Yen family has been colluding with the 9 Palace sect for the past 2 years, secretly selling rainbow grass behind the corpse demon sect's back. You thought you hid it well, deceiving everyone, but you couldn't hide it from my eyes. Do you still dare to boast about the protection of the corpse demon sect? If they find out, they will probably refine your entire Yen family into soulless corpses, neither dead nor alive. Ha ha. In the midst of Ghost 3's laughter, the demonic suppression staff in front of him suddenly erupted with a terrifying momentum. It turned out that when he was talking with Yan Zhongping, Ghost 3 had secretly primed the demonic suppression staff. Waiting for the right moment to deliver a fatal blow to the ship's defensive formation, Ghost 3's explosive revelation caused various reactions among the people on the ship. The 13 mid-Qi refinement cultivators of the Yen family all looked bewildered and incredulous, their eyes full of suspicion as they looked towards their family head. The Yen family had actually betrayed the corpse demon sect and sided with the 9 Palace sect. These mid-level cultivators of the Yen family had no idea beforehand. Although the 9 Palace sect primarily practiced orthodox cultivation methods, their conduct was somewhat unrestrained, with a taste of both righteousness and evil, unlike the corpse demon sect, which indulged in demonic practices and ruthlessly slaughtered ordinary people and cultivators for resources. The 9 Palace sect did not proclaim lofty ideals of righteousness and morality like those of renowned orthodox sects. However, the 9 Palace sect was still a sect that cultivated orthodox methods, definitely not favoring Yen family cultivators who specialized in poisonous techniques. After all, no one liked to befriend practitioners who were filled with toxins and could potentially poison you at any moment. From a certain perspective, poison cultivators were even more unwelcome than demonic cultivators, including Guatao and the other 5 late Qi refinement cultivators among them. All showed traces of panic. On their faces, clearly, they had never imagined their association with the 9 Palace sect would be exposed so easily. And by Ghost 3 at that, as Ghost 3 disclosed this to everyone, the Yen family had no retreat and could only fight to the death, killing all non-Yen family members present, delaying the leak of information, and then relocating their entire clan to the 9 Palace sect in order to have a chance at survival. This was a plan they had already discussed with the 9 Palace sect long ago, but now they had to accelerate the process. Yan Zhongping's eyes were cold, filled with murderous intent, as he looked towards the stern where Songwon stood. End of the chapter. Chapter 60. Yan Zhongping didn't hide his killing intent at all, sending chills down Songwon's spine. He didn't dare to arrogantly think that he could withstand the attacks of Yan Zhongping, who was at the 9th layer of Qi refinement. Songwon couldn't help but complain inwardly that this Ghost 3 was insane. You have a deadly feud with the Yen family. Since you've already caught them in a compromising position, why not just expose them to the corpse demon sect? They would handle the Yen family. So why risk your life to seek revenge? This made Song Wen suspect that Ghost 3's gathering of so many wandering cultivators and desperados was probably more about seizing the Yen family's assets than revenge. The absence of the Foundation establishment ancestor of the Yen family for many years, coupled with the Yen family's betrayal of the corpse demon sect, made Ghost 3 believe that he, along with these cultivators, had the upper hand against the Yen family. At that moment, Ghost 3 finally struck with full force. The demonic suppression staff pierced through the air, swiftly and without delay, hitting the defensive barrier under the siege of many cultivators. The defensive barrier was already precarious, with Ghost 3's full-force strike. It instantly shattered into countless points of light, dissipating into the air after breaking the barrier. Although the power of the demonic suppression staff had weakened slightly, it still carried a terrifying momentum, accompanied by a piercing whistle, continuing to thrust towards Yen Zhengping. Yen Zhengping's eyes turned cold. The demonic suppression staff exuded a formidable aura, filled with eerie, ghostly energy. He couldn't afford to take it lightly and had to respond with full force. Green mist emanated from Yen Zhengping's body, soon enveloping him completely. This was a manifestation of poison refinement reaching a certain level, displaying its unusual characteristics. 10 half-arm-length steel needles appeared in Yen Zhengping's hands. The needles were dark with a faint green glow, indicating their strong toxicity. Yen Zhengping waved his hands, and the 10 needles flew straight towards the demonic suppression staff. Clang! 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 A series of crisp and ear-piercing sounds of metal clashing echoed. The needles kept striking the demonic suppression staff. The needles were continuously knocked away, gradually diminishing the momentum of the demonic suppression staff. Yen Zhengping and Ghost 3 were evenly matched in their fierce struggle. But it was a challenge for everyone else on the ship. The combined attack of 2 cultivators at the 9th layer of Qi refinement emitted residual power that could not be underestimated. The mid-Qi refinement cultivators of the Yen family had the assistance of Yen family cultivators at the later stage of Qi refinement to resist the residual power. As for Song Wen, when the demonic suppression staff pierced the barrier, he activated the flying talisman in his left hand. At the same time, he exerted force with his feet and leaped towards a large tree diagonally behind him. The corpse puppet firmly stuck to Song Wen's back, helping to defend against possible attacks from behind. When the residual power erupted, Song Wen was less than 10 meters away from the nearest large tree. The shockwave hit the corpse puppet, instantly smashing its tough muscle-like flesh, revealing the decayed interior and eerie white bones. Song Wen had spent a lot of resources refining the corpse puppet. It was his first time revealing it to outsiders, and it was almost bisected. The shockwave's impact didn't end there. It pierced through the corpse puppet and struck Song Wen. In midair, Song Wen had already fully activated the Corpse King blood refinement art. His whole body was surrounded by corpse qi, and his blood surged. His entire skin turned dark and iron blue, gradually shriveling as if dehydrated, with robust muscle fibers emerging, nearly bursting through the skin. The nails on his hands and feet turned pitch black and sharp, emitting a deep chilling glow. This was the transformation brought by Song Wen advancing through the Corpse King blood refinement art. This greatly enhanced his physical strength, allowing him to withstand the spells of cultivators at the same level. The force transmitted through the corpse puppet was insufficient to threaten Song Wen. Instead, he used this momentum to accelerate towards the large tree. Song Wen climbed the large tree with hands and feet, not daring to linger. Using all limbs to propel himself, his figure leaped agilely towards the depths of the dense forest. Like a nimble ape, with the help of the flying talisman, Song Wen disregarded the distance between the trees, seeking the shortest route to quickly leave the battlefield. Behind him, various spells and magic techniques collided, creating thunderous booms and splashing water everywhere, shattering one towering tree after another. Song Wen had no time to spare for what was behind him, only focusing on getting as far away as possible where he might have a chance. The strength of the wandering cultivators clearly surpassed that of the Yen family cultivators. At this moment, the Yen family struggled to defend themselves, making it impossible to spare anyone to chase after Song Wen. As for the wandering cultivators, seeing Song Wen's strength at only the 3rd layer of Qi refinement, they didn't consider him a threat, mistaking him for a low-level Yen family cultivator. They let Song Wen escape without interference, with no one to hinder him. Within a few breaths, Song Wen's figure disappeared into the depths of the forest, leaving no trace. Yen family cultivators gathered by Yen Zhengping joining forces to resist the siege of the wandering cultivators. Due to the clear lack of top-tier combatants, the defense of the Yan family began to show signs of strain. Yan Zhengping, usually composed, now appeared somewhat anxious. He kept looking around in hope, as if waiting for reinforcements to appear. Yan Zhengping's hope was not in vain. From the distant swamp waters, a group of cultivators dressed in Yan family attire were riding on something akin to surfboards. Swiftly approaching on the water's surface, the rainbow grass spirit field was the most important industry of the Yan family. Naturally, it was guarded at all times. These Yan family cultivators were the guardians of the spirit field. Usually, they hid in the dense forests around the spirit field, guarding against demonic beasts in the swamp and wandering cultivators stealing spirit medicines. Seeing the arrival of reinforcements, the spirits of the Yan family cultivators soared. Yan Zhengping shouted loudly, "Ghost 3, today is your day to die." Ghost 3 glanced at the dozen or so Yan family cultivators approaching, the highest cultivation among them being at the 8th layer of Qi refinement, with only a few cultivators at the later stage of Qi refinement. The rest were all at the mid-Qi refinement stage. Ghost 3's expression became somewhat serious, yet he showed no signs of panic. Everything that was happening was within his expectations. "Everyone, we have an irreconcilable enmity with the Yan family. Today, we can only exterminate the Yan family using all the trump cards we have hidden away. Let's avoid prolonged battles." The Yan family has occupied the poisonous marsh for over 100 years, and their treasure trove must be filled with riches. As long as we take down the Yan family, the treasures we obtain from this battle will surely be tenfold or 100-fold. The many wandering cultivators glanced at each other. Greed was evident in their eyes. Their aptitude was not considered exceptional, surviving in the cruel world of cultivation until today and reaching the later stages of Qi refinement. They relied on being ruthless and unscrupulous. The attacks of the wandering cultivators instantly became fierce, using various strange methods like talismans, fierce ghosts, and vengeful spirits. End of the chapter.